I want to welcome Richard Town. He's from KUNM in Albuquerque. He's actually on the verge of retiring. But before he does, he's graciously agreed to talk about emergency planning with us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Richard. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, and hello, everybody. Thanks for joining in. And as I said, if raising questions or missing a point, feel free to jump in. Let's keep the conversation on track. So I'm thinking about sort of three broad areas. One of the areas is relates to that emergency plan that Stephanie sent out with the meeting invitation. It's an attachment. We're at the University of New Mexico, but we're operated by 100 community volunteers. So we're a hybrid station licensed to a state entity, but operated by the community. It's been that way for 40, 50 years. We do a great job, and we're really working well together. But the university requires that we have an emergency plan. So I've sent that to you for review. And the thing about the emergency plan, I was focusing on I think it's page 6, the table of contents. So there's that sort of list of things to think about in terms of safety, right? At least from the university's perspective. Some of the things on the list won't necessarily apply. Chemical spills comes to mind. Right? Probably there aren't a lot of chemicals in your building, hopefully not, and hopefully not in a position to cause a safety issue. But here's how it works in at least in my head. That list of table of contents from the safety report, these are tangible things. So these are things that you can plan for, evacuation routes in case of fire or other safety issues within the building. Tangible steps that you can take, getting a fire extinguisher, making sure everybody knows where it is, and that kind of thing. And then if you do have a tangible event, you have a tangible response in your plan that is shared among your staff, right? Okay, so I'm going to call that kind of tangible. And we're going to do that second, because to me, it's also critical to recognize the intangible aspects of safety, security, anxiety, stress, trauma. Hope I don't get too deep with anybody on this stuff, but those are intangibles. Anxiety and stress, it's not something you can necessarily prepare for. Trauma is not either, right? I've got a short list here. Anxiety, stress, the blahs. You know what I mean, the blahs, right? Mental health, anxiety, again, excessive fear, feeling jumpy, right? Restless, expecting the worst, lack of focus, lack of energy, lack of appetite, right? These are intangible things. We all go through them at one point or another, and one degree or another, we all go through them, right? So here's an example, because if you have had trauma, and we all have had trauma, physical, mental, spiritual, what have you, and we've also had anxiety and stress. But here's my point as an example. Especially with trauma, your body stores it as a protective mechanism. So when I was 6, my family's house burnt down. Nobody was in the house, right? Everybody was safe. We drove up, they were putting the house fire out. And now, even today, if I go outside and smell wood smoke, I go right back to my 6-year-old self. I'm suddenly recalling it. And that's how your body works. It stores trauma, anxiety in a place that you can manage. And it's there for you if you experience more trauma as part of fight or flight. All right. We understand that part, right? So that's why it's really important to me. And so we've been through a number of things at KUNM that have been stress-inducing, traumatic, causing anxiety. And you all probably have. You went through COVID, right? And survived that shutdown and what the stress and anxiety that created. You probably created new ways of working together remotely, etc., different work groups, that sort of thing. And what we did is made it a part of our standing weekly all hands meeting. And it's on the agenda. How do we have safety concerns? Those sort of tangible, are we finding people sleeping in the bushes outside our building? Are we finding needles outside of our building? Are we finding doors not locked? Any of that safety stuff, which is tangible, but also a check-in, right? How are you feeling, right? And stress levels are pretty high for us right now, probably because of the political situation that we find ourselves in. I don't want to make a judgment on it, but there's a whole lot of stress within the current political environment. So our solutions are a couple of things, and I'll suggest these to you. You may have some of these solutions in place. If not, you may want to consider putting them in place. But the most important thing to me and to us, especially on the professional staff, is to not internalize that stress and anxiety or trauma that you're feeling if you're feeling it within the workplace, right? Because when you internalize, it gets worse. It's like an oil leak in your car. It doesn't fix itself. It only kind of gets bigger, bigger, and then the car stops. So communications is key. No expression is too small, right? If you're feeling stress, address it with somebody, your coworker, your supervisor, your general manager. Talk to somebody about it so that there is an awareness and a sharing and the creation of a culture of communications around stress and anxiety. It's a permitted, encouraged activity within the work group. I think that part is really, really important. We heard this in COVID. It's like, I didn't want to bring this up because I know everybody's working so hard to operate remotely, but I'm really stressed out about producing next week's program because I don't know how to work on the software. And no. It's like, good. Let's work together and find some solutions, right? But do communicate and make sure that you're encouraging each other to find that path of communications. That is so critical to me. And I think if you're in a leadership position at your station, is to make sure you're setting the example and encouraging that dialogue, that communications. It's all important, right? So the flip side of that is don't ignore warning signs, right? Most of you have at your station taken really wacky phone calls in the control room. I mean, real wacky, right? We've had bomb threats, death threats. I'm going to come over there with my gun and shoot you, all of that sort of stuff. Sometimes they're just goofy, wacky calls. Don't ignore them, report them, communicate up and over to your colleagues. Hey, I need to bring this caller up to your attention. We have the mechanism to log calls. We have the mechanism to block calls. Right? So if somebody is calling and cursing, for instance, just going on crazy rants, you've probably heard them, right? It's life. But we can block those kind of calls. We can also report them to the police, right? And we're close to the campus police department. They're about 2 blocks from us. They visit our facility twice a year, walk through, talk with staff, provide us with active shooter training. That one's pretty hard, but they walk through the facility with us and say, these are your run, hide, fight strategies for your area, your building, your office space. And what we have done in the control room is set up if I say a bank teller button, in the old bank robbery movies, the teller would reach under the counter, push a button to set the alarm off. We have that. And it just sends a text message to the university police that there is someone holding the DJ hostage in the control room, right? Or threatening behavior or behavior from a unwanted visitor, unruly behavior, especially in the control room. So if that happens in the control room, you can't pick up the phone if somebody's in the control room with a knife or a gun. Sorry, tough image. It's rough image, but the fact is you can't reach over and press 911, but you can slowly move your hand under the counter, press the button, and the police will be there for, in our case, it's in 60 seconds. They're in our building. They know where that room is. It shows them on the map exactly where that room is. And that provides us with protection, right? Some level of protection. Also, I'll spend a minute here if I can, and then let's open up for questions or discussion. The other thing that we've built over time, and you can decide how you want to approach this, but we have through the university counseling and referral services. So free, confidential, I can call and get an appointment with a counselor. And I use them. When I'm encountering stress, fatigue, anxiety, who do I talk to? I go talk to a counselor. It's free. It's a block away, right? And so they have agreed, especially in 2020 during the social justice movement, Black Lives Matter movement, stuff like that. We came under severe scrutiny. We had militia on campus. We had militia shooting up the protests, etc. Some of you experienced some of that, and we were being called enemy of the people and all of that. And so the counseling and referral service agreed to make our, not just professional staff, the employees of the university, but the volunteers, a priority. So there wasn't like, oh, I could see you in 3 days or 5 days. It's like, okay, you need to talk, we'll get you in. We're going to get you in. So you may not have that as a community-based station. However, you should ahead of time introduce yourself to a counseling service and find one, not after you have an incident. Don't wait for that moment, right, to start opening up searching around for counseling service. Find somebody, maybe on your board, somebody knows somebody who could do pro bono on demand if we absolutely need it. We'll be there for you, right? And I think in the past we've had trade with counseling services. We had someone die. This is 96, way back in a community meeting at the station. Somebody had a massive heart attack. It wasn't the meeting, it was its physical condition. Massive heart attack, fell to the floor, couldn't revive him. We even had a doctor in that meeting. One of our volunteers was a doctor, could not revive him. But in that meeting were volunteers who had never experienced death in firsthand, sudden death like that. And so we talked to a counseling service that I was familiar with in the private sector and said, here's what happened. I need to invite volunteers who are experiencing that trauma to come in and work with you. And they got us in and they did it pro bono. It didn't take much. A couple of sessions where our volunteer, specifically who had never experienced that, was able to talk through the issues and come back to kind of a center place. There are other services that we've used, Office of Medical Investigator. That's a state office. You're going to have one in your state. So they have someone who is available for counseling for sudden loss or suicide, sudden loss of a family. So OMI, or Office of Medical Examiner, is what determines the cause of death, right? That's how I sort of picture it. But then I realized that they had specialists on their staff available to family and community to help with stress, anxiety, trauma, right? Their specialty is trauma. That's what they see more than anything else, I think. But they understand that in dealing with specifically with death, that it's more than the dead person. It is the family, the community around that person. So I think we have a great relationship with them. They've come to our service a couple of times, again, pro bono. We had group meetings with the volunteers and professional meetings with the volunteers. And she offered to do one-on-ones with people that were still needing more work. So the state OMI, Office of Medical Investigators, that's another potential resource for you. Let's see, I'll pause there. Questions, comments, observations, things you've seen?
Does anyone have any thoughts so far?
Richard, I'm wondering if, hi, Richard, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah. I'm wondering, when you encourage people to talk about what they're stressed out about, do you give them any guidance on how to talk about it so that they are able to get something good, that it's a good experience for them?
Yes, to a degree, right? So especially if it's something that I have influence over within the professional setting, within the radio station setting, sure. Like, okay, we can make an accommodation for you here, or we understand that something. So those are sometimes smaller than issues where anxiety or fear may be coming externally from home, from non-work hours. And in those cases, we refer them out to the counseling service at campus, because you've got to be careful with personal health information. And then to a degree, we're not trained to deal with personal issues at home. We can recognize them and we can make some accommodations where possible, but in terms of having a conversation about the fights you're having with your partner is not appropriate within the work environment, in my opinion. Okay. Anybody? If not, we can move to the more tangible part in terms of looking at the safety plan and the happier news, right? Fire, flood.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the intangible, Richard. That's great that you can include that. I just want to say that.
Yeah, it became real critical for us. We had a suicide in 2000, our news director, totally unexpected, very young, vibrant, centered person. And she chose to end her life, right? And it was such a shock for all of us that it's unmanageable within a work group without professional help. So a year later on the anniversary, we went right back to that team that was helping us and saying, this is pulling back up. This is pulling back up. It's been a year. I'm still sad. And now it's getting harder and harder because the anniversary of this event is coming up and I don't know what to do. So we brought that team right back in because that trauma and stress stays with you. It just does. Your body stores it as part of a protective mechanism.
Great.
Richard, can I go back to my question just for a minute?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Partly why I asked that was because in my experience as a station manager, one of the things that always had to kind of be watched was people's tendency to speak ill of each other at the station, to complain about, because people in daily life, they aggravate each other and then it escalates into complaints. And I'm just wondering, like, when you encourage people to talk about stress, how you encourage them to talk about it so it doesn't just kind of degenerate into that, which in my experience can happen pretty quickly because people just are used to doing that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I experienced that in starting here 30 years ago. Everybody was fighting everybody.
Yeah,
And so the volunteers didn't like the staff didn't like the board didn't like any of us, you know, and the operational mode was fight, argue, go home. Come on back, fight, argue, go home.
yeah,
And so we began to look at rather than what we didn't like, what is it that we do want? What do we want this work environment to feel like, to be like? Do we want it to be solution oriented? Do we want to be able to solve problems? So in our case, for our volunteers, we have a operations manager, Stephen Emmons. Some of you know him. Um, he is a confidential single point of contact for all of our volunteers. Right. So I'm trying to think of a recent example. One of our volunteers was trying to finish a shift, and the next volunteer was coming in 30 minutes before his or her show and was kind of disruptive in the control room. And the volunteer who was trying to finish the show said, you know, I've asked and asked, you know, is let me finish my show. Come in. Our standard is 15 minutes before your show begins. That's where the transition takes place. But this person keeps coming in and they won't be quiet, or they're always on their phone, and I'm trying to focus on the show. Right. So that volunteer who is frustrated brings the concern to our operations manager, who manages the resolution. And he is a skilled resolution provider or a person, you know, so he's taken resolution conflict classes. He's worked with our ombuds at the university to help resolve. He's taken challenging communications courses. And he's very good about reaching out to the other volunteer to say, hey, let's get a cup of coffee and let's figure this out. Because if it doesn't go along, you'll face progressive discipline within our shop. So we have a policy of verbal warning, written warning, suspension, termination. So we have resolution processes in place so that we can resolve problems, and we really work to resolve them at the earliest possible level. Again, it's that oil leak. It's not going to resolve itself, right? So as early, you know, we really encourage that as early and often as needed. Bring this up to our attention so we can help on the resolution side. And our dispute resolution policy is not perfect, but I'd be happy to send you that, and you can see the steps that we go through to ensure some level of due process for volunteers should that be needed. I'll add something that I think is also important is be sure to designate yourself or someone from your staff who is a woman, so that your volunteers who don't want to talk to a man, they want to talk to a woman, they have someone to go to, right? That's something we learned. It's like, well, I didn't want to bring it up to your male operations manager. So, okay, then bring it up to our female development director who is equally skilled at this. I understand. In some cases, women want to talk to women. And in others, it could be men want to talk to women, but it is important to have avenues into both genders, side. Good question. Anybody else?
yeah, thank you.
Okay. If you have looked through the table of contents, are there areas where you have strength? Areas where you need to grow? There's no wrong answer there. And maybe you haven't had time to look through that table, but the whole UNM, University of New Mexico emergency plan is pretty thorough. it reads a little bit institutional, but it's pretty comprehensive into things that you may want to think about for your place. The one place in this table of contents where we didn't come up to standards is what's called a go kit. And for our station, we have we're in a 10,000 square foot facility, so we have lots of offices and studios, and we have now go kits in each corner of the facility. So what's in a go kit? Flashlight? What do you put in a go kit? Do you have a go kit at home? Flashlight, maybe enough peanut butter and crackers to last you for a meal, right? Bottle of water, Band-Aids. If you have to get up and go, if your DJ in the control room is ordered to evacuate because of fire, they're going to grab that bag on their way out. What's in it, right? So think about that. I think that's good. We have flashlights all over the building in case of power failure. There's also a reference here to what is called an area of refuge. It's actually called a ADA evacuation procedures. Right, so think about somebody who has mobility challenges, wheelchair, crutches, whatever, rollers, or something like that. Welcome in the facility, but we're on the third floor, and if there is a fire or fire alarm, just an alarm goes off, the elevator goes out of service, and we have a small room off of the stairwell from the third floor to the ground that is called we call it area of refuge. They would call it in the UNM plan, UNM 80, let's see, let me find this again, ADA evacuation. If you've got somebody in a wheelchair, guest, volunteer, staff member, visitor, the elevator goes out, how are they going to get out of the third floor? They're going to go to that area of refuge, that ADA evacuation point. And police and fire know where that room is. It's on their map. They're going to know to rush the building, use that stairwell, get up to that room with two strong people, because that's what it takes. It may take two strong people to lift a wheelchair down 2 flights of stairs. Are you all on ground level? Yeah, ground level. Okay.
One of our studios is and one of ours isn't.
Yeah. So think about that. Is the scenario is someone needs help. Also on this list, the operations manager, who I mentioned before, and myself are the last two to clear the facility. So on an evacuation, the protocol is to close all of your office doors to slow the spread of fire or the spread of toxic smoke, right, in case of fire. So we get everybody out, and then we go through the facility to make sure the doors are closed, that there isn't somebody who's ignoring the alarms. Pretty interesting. The alarms make you want to leave. They are so loud and obnoxious, and we're audio people, right? We are people of the ears, so, and our hearing is so sensitive, and the horns are so loud. In the studios, we use strobes, right? But what's louder than a fire alarm? Strobe. I want to leave. I want to get out of here. We do drills once a year. Those are mandatory. And we have a when we evacuate the building and we congregate on what we call the grassy knoll. It's a patch of lawn near our building. And it is a little knoll, and so that's what we call it. And so everybody is gathers there. One or two people are designated as stay behind. The others go get coffee and burritos. Or I don't know where they go, but we text chain them that says, okay, the building is open and come on back to work if you want. All right. So we do have structure to the operational part of this safety plan. And I think you probably all have phone trees or text trees. So we've built one for the 100 volunteers that with one text, we can reach them all. Right. So active shooter, stay away. Right. And our volunteers know that we're going to follow up when the situation has been resolved. We have not had an active shooter in the building. We have had active shootings in the parking lot, unfortunately. And it involves student athletes. It didn't involve us, but it happened right at our exterior door. And it happened at 3 in the morning, and we didn't have anybody here. We were running on automation. So the situation did not call for a building evacuation. The university police did a walkthrough on our facility. They know that we operate automated overnight in some cases. And so we didn't get an alert from them to take any action on it. But gosh, I hope none of this ever happens to you, but put some thought into preparing your plan, protecting each other, and being able to create a kind of a culture of good, positive communications and resolution. Things that I should touch on that I haven't. Anything from anybody? Good luck.
Any other thoughts at this time? Okay.
No.
Richard, do you find that there's a tendency for people to kind of get lax about these things and not take them seriously? Or do you feel that it's pretty easy to have everybody kind of stick to the plan?
I think that both on the intangible parts of anxiety and stress, I know the professional staff, and we have 21 on the staff, so it's a fairly big group, but they do take it very seriously. We've been through a lot together. We had Ursula, as you know, our longtime music director, formerly from BAI, passed away almost a year ago, unexpectedly.
Yeah.
He was healthy and vibrant on Friday, and he was dead on Sunday night. Pneumonia, and his body collapsed. Right, so it wasn't malicious. His body stopped working. And again, we're moving right into that area of counseling and talking to each other, celebrating. We just held a celebration of his life last month. Took us a while. His partner of 30 years has been very engaged. His family came out from New York and that kind of thing. So one reason we have buy-in is because it works, right? You solve a problem and you create trust and respect, which feels a whole lot better than the anxious, stressful, traumatic fatigue kind of thing. So there is a way of building it where it becomes self-sustaining within your organization, I believe. It does need maintenance, right? It does need regular attention, but what's more important than the people in your place? How are you going to serve listeners when you're fighting? Right? I will recall when I started here, I mentioned 30 years ago, everybody was fighting. You know who was missing in the conversations internally? between board, the university, professional staff, and volunteers. I noticed it right away, and it really is something that I've worked on. We didn't talk about listeners. Listeners were not part of the conversation. It was us versus them, and who's fighting who, and now that's all we talk about is serving listeners, serving community, being responsive, doing great stuff, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a different focus.
Yeah. Okay, then I will tack on just a sermonette here about suspicious packages in the mail. Do you open your station's mail, or do you have one or two people that might open?
I open mine.
Yeah. So yeah, we get suspicious mail. We've got somebody in Tennessee he cuts up, I think it's a he, uh, cuts up cereal boxes. So he'll cut out a strawberry on the box of Cheerios, the one strawberry that's floating in the milk, the bowl of cereal, the one you see on the grocery store aisle. And he will fill an envelope full of cutouts from cereal boxes and mail it to me. Okay, that's I'm not particularly threatened because it's postmarked out of Kentucky or Tennessee, but maybe twice a year I'll get it.
Do you understand it?
No. The way I understand it is there is, and I know this, it's happened to me, but there is within the general population a high degree of mental health challenged people, right? And let's say it's 15%. That's my sort of benchmark. And in that 15%, you have 5% that can manage day to day. You have 5% below that could really benefit from intense treatment and getting to that place where they could manage. And then you have 5% of that 15% that is unable to function properly within society, right? That's sad, but that's the state of the world from my perspective. So in that 15% with mental health challenges means 1 in every 7th person. 15% doesn't sound like, but it's 1 in 7 people. If you're at a grocery store, 1 in 7 is facing some sort of challenge on mental or emotional health. So it isn't a perfect world. So my feeling is the person in Kentucky who is cutting out the strawberries in the cereal box and sending them to me has some sort of fixation, right? I don't know why it's our station. I don't know why it's me. The person doesn't do anything in terms of putting a note in it, but I saved the envelopes and just in case. And when it got to 5 of these envelopes, I shared it with the UNM police and said, I don't think this is going to amount to much, but I want to open up a case file and I need a case file number so that if this guy or gal shows up from Kentucky and Tennessee, walks in the building, I can get immediate attention. I don't have to explain all this junk. You know what I'm saying? So get a file started and get your case number. Hopefully you don't need it. But if you need it, the first thing they're going to say is, well, we need to take a report. And say, look up case number 9377. And they have it. Right? They have it. We also recently invested in a security system. That one was hard for me. I'm not comfortable with cameras running in the facility. How many of you have cameras running? No. All right. And we have to get into the building now, you have to have a swipe card. And we can turn off your access over the cell phone. Our operations manager could, if there was a problem with a disgruntled volunteer, we could turn off access to the studios, to the offices, to the building from his cell phone. That problem could be reported and accessed, and then we start on the police part of it, right? So those can be expensive to do, but that's the degree of security that we've come to expect. And it doesn't, it doesn't feel like, community radio, we've all experienced great talent walking in the door saying, hey, I always wanted to be a DJ. I know a heck of a lot of XYZ music, and I got some free time. I'd love to do a show. How do I get started? Right. That's the spirit. I understand that. And locking up is challenging to me personally, but it's the desire of the staff, including the volunteers, to have that level of security. Especially with the threats that came in, especially coming out of the social justice protests in 2000, 2001. I'm sorry, 2020 and 2021. Okay, maybe I have worn out my welcome here. And more good news. Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, what is your listenership? How far and wide is your reach? And is being more successful brings more problems with listeners? I'm just wondering what's your numbers?
That's a good question. We're really fortunate to have the highest antenna in public radio, in non-commercial radio. So our antenna is a mile above average terrain. And so we're at 5,000 feet. The antenna's at 11,000 feet. So I've always wanted to put out a T-shirt that says KUNM, we're the highest, but no, it doesn't quite work. But our signal goes in a 60-mile radius. And then we operate 4 other stations that are repeaters and 3 other translators. So pretty good sized network. Potential audience is half the state, or 1.1 million. Actual audience is 90,000 a week. And it varies. The hourly audience varies according to time of day and type of programming. Is that addressing your question? Oh, does it cause problems? So here's the one.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because I'm from KACRLP in Alameda, and we have about 80,000 people who live on a small island, and our antenna is 110 watts, and we reach about maybe 3 square miles. And half of that miles is just the bay going towards San Francisco, which you don't really hear in San Francisco. So I was just wondering, with all these issues, and you've got a 10,000 square foot space, and we're broadcasting basically from our laptops at this point.
Yeah. And I understand that we're a very fortunate station. And one of the reasons I had not been working at stations, I'd been working independently, but when I saw the opportunity here, for instance, we look right into Santa Fe. And Santa Fe, there's money in Santa Fe. There may not be a lot of money in Albuquerque, but there is, and the opportunity to fundraise and build community. The big challenge we're facing now, and you may see this as well, is we serve so many communities and so many rural communities where we're actually serving as a beacon in a news desert, that sometimes we feel our news coverage and public affairs coverage is too Albuquerque centric or Santa Fe centric when state government is in. So we're really looking at how to strengthen our service, especially to the rural, and these are poorer communities. Like typically they go hand in hand. For LPFM, I don't know. I don't know what to think, because I haven't really worked in that world, which is going to be a smaller, tighter universe. I mean, you must be well received within the community.
We're still trying to get word out that there is a radio station
Okay.
here, and we broadcast in conjunction with a high school. So lots of turnover. High school kids. I've never had anyone from the high school who wanted to be on the station or go from the radio station or from the high school station to the community station. So it's been a challenge, but we're still here. And I owe some money to Pacifica, so I'll get that up here, Ursula.
I think strategically, the direction we're moving is to look at telephone apps, mobile apps, as being the delivery device, so that
we're 24 hours online as well.
Yeah, great. And because and we're doing things now to promote station content in a non-linear way with younger generations, so that, for instance, you can look at our program schedule, we're still operating in that appointment listening model. So I could tell you, if you like reggae, Thursday night 7 to 10, but you tune in Friday night thinking, well, he said 7 to 10 and it's salsa. Okay, that guy was lying. And so we're moving to brand by type of music, so that from the homepage, if you say you like freeform eclectic, here's 10 different programs from our 2-week archive, or here's the live stream. Right? And that's so much easier to promote on social media than to try to, it's increasingly hard to find people with radios, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so radio's been very good, but the challenge is on, right? It seems like you have a great resource, though, being at the high school.
It's a challenge. It's still a challenge after, 6, 7 years?
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, I wish you well on that.
Anyone else have any questions?
Matt,
Matt,
who you put this plan together and this is then vetted by the university, they have to sign off on it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in our case, we don't, we're independent, so we would just have to, I like your table of contents. I'm going to certainly pick from that, cherry pick some things off of that. So thank you for that. But it is, so you do it internally and then it gets vetted by the college. They must have specialists look at it and all that. So
Yes, they do occasional walkthroughs. So there, we don't have any issues with asbestos, but if a ceiling tile falls, they're going to send somebody over to look at it. You know what I'm saying, in the sort of facilities maintenance part of it. I would think for independence, you maybe do a solid report, annual review, and then to the board as a diligence practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. As I said at the top, I'd be happy to help you individually. I'm easy to find. It won't be so easy to find once I retire. I'm going to be here another 60 days. I know that. But I will share my private email with Ursula, if that's okay. And then contact Ursula or Stephanie. Because Ursula, are you retiring? Or
I was hoping to, but the political winds make it hard to retire right now. Once again, we're under the gun, so not yet, no.
Yeah.
See this through first, whatever this is.
Yeah.
So, I do want to say to anybody listening to this offer being made right now is a really fantastic offer. I mean, Richardtown is one of the most veteran and successful managers in our network. And, this is like a huge opportunity if this guy's willing to let you pick his brain, because I know I have many times, right?
Yeah.
Richard, when I was a station manager, I ran to you quite a few times for help.
Yeah, yeah. We all need that level of support. And I just so firmly believe in the mission of uh, non-commercial radio, of Pacifica, NFCB, this whole thing, right? So happy to help any topic, anytime.
Yeah, yeah, this is an incredible offer. I mean, this is a resource that everybody should, well, I don't want to say everybody should use because I don't want to make your life miserable, but it's a heck of an offer. I just had one more question. How do you train your volunteers to follow all these safety measures? How do you, get them to know about it and get them to take it seriously?
That's a fair question. So for new volunteers, they go through orientation, right? A series of, I think lots of it is now online, but then there's a series of 5 orientation sessions before they go into studio to learn gear and to practice and all of that. And part of it is this safety orientation. Before they become certified as volunteers, they have to take a test. And the test covers, it's not there's no failure. The test is to show where you need stronger understanding when it comes to FCC language or building safety or protocols for evacuating, where to park, who to call, blah, blah, blah. So that's for new volunteers. And then every other year we do recertification. So all volunteers are required to take that exam. It's online, it's self-paced, all the policies are available, and you just go through and you submit the online exam. The operations manager takes a look and says, hey, you did really well, but here's an area where we need to get a phone call. Right? So it just is culturally woven into the work on an ongoing basis. And if you can accomplish that, it will sustain itself with very little impact, but it needs to be woven into your operational work, I believe.
I see Meredith has her hand up.
Hey.
Hi, this has been so good. Sorry, I've been off camera, but yeah, that was my question actually, was how to really train volunteers and get that structure going, because that hasn't really been part of the culture of our station. And so I actually just rewrote a whole FCC quiz for all of our programmers to take, and only 50% did it. And so now I'm following up with anyone, and I'm wondering, with your station, are there, I don't want to use the word repercussions or consequences, but it's if you don't fill it out, do you miss your show? Or, what is the incentive to get people really to participate?
The incentive is access to the air. So if you don't take the test, you don't get scheduled. Right. And we might say if you don't take it in 30 days, you won't get scheduled for 6 months. Right. So we scale that up, and it's widely understood. If you don't attend the fundraising, on-air fundraising training, you don't get scheduled. Attend it next time, and we'll put you back on the schedule. Right. So you don't lose your volunteer certification, but you don't get scheduled.
Mm.
It's kind of a nice bright line that everybody understands, and it's an incentive for people to get recertified.
I guess my follow-up question, how have you navigated pushback to things such as that
Yeah.
from volunteers?
Yeah, that's the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the standard we established, and that's, when I started here, there was very little structure, and I said, no, we need, for the work to get done, we need some structure in here. And so we have these dispute resolution mechanisms, and we have ways of addressing them, but then we also have standards for noncompliance, if you will, or consequences. And most of it is around getting scheduled to be on the air. That's the privilege. But it does go all the way to being terminated as a certified volunteer and not allowed in the building.
Mhm.
So there is teeth, and the volunteers had a hand in crafting that, so it wasn't imposed from
Oh,
above. It took me a while, right? But that's the way I work, is let's do it together, move it together, be smart, listen to each other, but let's get it in place. So it's not an easy job.
yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I see we're hitting 4 o'clock here. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Richard, before we go?
Best of luck in all of your work, and remember, holler at me if I can help.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you. And I learned a lot, and I think everyone else did too. So thank you.
Have a great retirement.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to see what it's like not to work, you know. Okay,
Thank
take
you,
care.
everyone, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You.